Yes.
Like I tell my friends all the time, if they go out and get a DUI, they may get the police blotter, but if I get a DUI, it's gonna be on the front page of the paper.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing with a pastor. I
Hmm.
mean, it's like everything they do
Is amplified.
is amplified.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, pastor did such and
Yeah.
such. Well, such and such did it last week, and ain't nobody said nothing about it.
Exactly.
You know,
Uh,
but when you're in a leadership role like
mhm.
that, you basically can't live a life.
No.
I mean, like my friends, they might be able to go out on the strip and have a beer and hang out with each other and stuff like that, but I can't because my players might be there.
Hmm.
It's the same way with a pastor. I mean, he may have friends that they can go to the casino, but then if they go, they come back. Everybody at church said, "Y'all saw Pastor Mike at the casino?"
Yeah.
I went there too.
Yeah.
That's true, but
That's why when they say a lot of people say they run from it, that's why. But they don't want the extra that comes with it.
Yes. Go ahead, D.
like I said, I understand what you're saying, but it shouldn't be that way, but it is.
Hmm.
You should be able, pastor should be able to go wherever you want, because he said go out and tell us
Yeah.
certain things. So, hey, you should be able to go, wherever you want, you want to go. It's just the way you carry yourself that you're there. You know, I think that's is why nowadays to me the religious leaders don't have the power. I wouldn't say power, but they don't
The
look on,
influence.
people don't look on them
Hmm.
like they used to.
Yeah.
When a preacher used to come around, hey, you had a bill, whatever, hide it or you go. But nowadays,
Hmm.
they don't care whether you cuss or something. Like, hey, the preacher,
Hmm.
but now they
Yeah.
don't care.
Yeah.
Don't care about it now.
And like you said, that scrutiny, and here it is. This is the other part that a lot of people don't understand. It's if that preacher was called, well, when that preacher is called,
Yeah.
then it does not make him not be a man, a regular man anymore. So many times people think, well, he a preacher now. He's not normal anymore. He can't do the wrong. He can't make mistakes. Yeah, he was a man before he was a preacher, and he's still a man because God didn't change him. God didn't convert him out of flesh into just being a spiritual being. He's still a person of flesh who has been chosen to lead. And here we are, people in the flesh. It's I think a lot of times it's so easy for us to sit up and just point and say he messed up because he the pastor. He shouldn't be doing all that. He's still a human. The leaders are still humans. Uh, I know I had a couple of months ago. I had a former student of mine. She's a grown lady. I mean, and she'd gone in the store, and as I was going in the store, she was coming out, and she had a couple of beers in the bag. Well, when she looked up and she saw me, she what 20, 25 years old. She put them behind her, and just kind of walked past me. And I looked at her, and I started laughing, and she said, "You ain't supposed to see me with this, Mr. Taylor." I said, "Look," I was going to tell you something. She said, "I said, you grown." I said, "You're not a little 9-year-old third grader anymore." And she was like, and her response was, "But I still respect you like that, Mr. Taylor." And I appreciate that. However, I don't want, when I meet former students, I don't want them to say, "Okay, well, I can't, I got to be this way because Mr. Taylor around." But I'm not your teacher anymore. I do appreciate the level of respect, but it goes back to the leadership in any, here in the church, or anywhere, even, a lot of times, even on our jobs, it's just you supervising, you telling somebody to do something, and then they see you being human. They say, "Oh, you can't mess up." Yeah, yeah, I can. I mean, considered to be mess up. I can because I'm human. I can do the same things you do. Just because I'm your supervisor, I'm your boss, does not mean that I am, omitted from doing these things. Yeah, I'm still the same person. And we were still the same person before we got the position. However, if we do crazy stuff with it, That is on us. We got to be, representative in as a leader, as leaders, you got to be representative, and it tells us right here of what they shouldn't do. It's I mean, and that's the reality of it. And so many times people think, well, I'm just this one time and I'm done with it. What about God and us every day? I'm gonna take it to that point. Do we stop sinning just because we said, forgive me for this sin today? No. As soon as we're done with that one, we on to the next sin. Now, what if God said, one time I'm done? I'm going to forgive you one time. Problems over. Like, wait. No. Chances are. Everybody. I mean, yeah, yeah. I mean, and like you said, have done it, and gonna probably do it again. So, so yeah. Hmm. Yes. But here's that other part, and I know we revert back to it a lot. When he says for us, and he means everybody when he gave this scripture, judge ye not, lest ye be judged by the same measure. So if it's at that point where I'm judging pastor, guess what? There's a judgment coming on me. We talked about in Sunday school was look in the mirror. This past lesson was looking in the mirror. You think about it. He's a leader. Yeah, he was called to do this, but yes, he is imperfect. God didn't say I'm gonna make him a leader and make him perfect or make her perfect. He didn't say that. That's not his promise. That was not his intent. But when we desire to be in these positions, he's just giving guidelines on how we should carry ourselves, and that's what we are. And it's be self-controlled. Well, of course, like I said, be a husband of one wife, temperate. I mean, temperate. That's fairly even keeled. Self-controlled. That means you don't jump off the bat every time somebody breathes at you. And you're gonna be a leader. And every time somebody say something in the church, an argument or disagreement come in the church, you just gonna jump off the bat and just go at everybody. You can't be a leader like that. And he's telling that these are just how we should. This is what the requirements are. What we said. Oh, I thought you said something. But and be respectable, hospitable, and able to teach. Now, respectable. Go ahead, D. Yes, outside. And hospitable. You got to be welcoming. If somebody's coming in, and y'all know, when we go into places of work, you let me walk in there, and you don't. If I speak and you don't speak, I can put my stuff back and go to the next store. I don't mind doing that. Or let me walk in there and I've gotten a service and you're not hospitable. I mean, and I'm using that with stuff that we experience every day, just services when we go places. Don't worry about me coming back the next time. And don't worry. You don't have to worry about that from me, because guess what? I don't have to come to this particular place. If your constituents are not hospitable when I come in, that's fine. I ain't gonna beg you to be. You just don't need my money, or you don't need you don't need my patronage. And here's the other thing with that. as you know, and I know I'm kind of jumping off, but I'm going back to the fact that of that hospitable nature. When it gets to the hospitable nature of things, as it leads to the church, we don't realize how many times we run people away. And the leadership is not just up here. The leadership is ushers at the door. The leadership is are the members in the pews. Leadership are the stewards. Those are the people in leadership. If somebody comes in and they look at one person and this is their first time of coming here, and they didn't feel welcome, do you think they'll be back? That's not a welcoming. That's not a hospitable place for them. We are the face of the ministry on how we act. When a person comes in here, when we have visitors, we don't know who the visitor, and not just visitors, but when we have on each other. When we come here every Sunday or every Wednesday, we should be able to be hospitable to one another. Go ahead, D.
Well, most of the time, like I said, 99% if somebody comes to the church, a lot of people say, well, the preacher didn't preach. No, he's not preaching. It's the people, it's the members of the church that the reason they don't come back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And if the church don't have that many members, you kind of look at the members that they are.
Mm-hmm.
Are they hospitable?
Yeah.
Not preach. Are they hospitable? Are
Mm-hmm.
they preach each other? Are they,
Yes.
or do they have their little program, their little
Mm-hmm. Yes. All right. And if nobody have anything else on those first three verses, we'll move on to verses 4 and 5, and this one deals particularly with family. Mm-hmm. Yes. Yes. When we do something innocent, I mean, if you might say, Joe might say, I just want me one beer. You're not going to get sloppy drunk. You're going to get this beer, and you might. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
If you go in there and get a nice bottle of wine,
Mm-hmm.
I see you coming out of there.
Oh, he was at the ABC store. And then it goes from, I see him in there every Wednesday. It's like, wait. I went in there one time.
Really what happens is a lot of times, people confuse, like you said, pastors, people in leadership, they put them on a pedestal and basically make them God.
Yeah.
You got churches and people that worship leaders, worship
Yes.
pastors, things like that. Like you said, it makes them almost unhuman.
Mm-hmm.
They don't. So it puts them in a spot where it's almost like they can't make a mistake.
Yes.
They can't do anything.
Mm-hmm.
It ain't fun living in that little box where you can't live your life. That's why people run.
Yes.
At the same time, as Christians, we gotta understand we're not worshiping a human.
The human.
We're worshiping God.
Yes.
Humans gonna make mistakes.
Mm-hmm. Well, and we touched on that. Remember, we talked about that a little bit last Wednesday too, when it was talking about the roles. And I know we got down to the touchy subject. It was the roles of women and how women should dress in the church. But our conversation was that it feels, it's like tradition. Man set tradition You got to wear this type of dress, and it's got to be all the way down to here. You got to wear, these type of pantyhose and whatever, and it had to be all the way. You got to wear all this, And I think, Tanika, I think that was. Didn't you say something on that? I think you said it was that. I think you answered. Well, kind of sold that up, but it was some. But it was like when we were talking. Go ahead. Say. But when we were talking about it, it's like that was then, and we get to the point where tradition sets it and says, well, you got to do this and do that, but you got a person who didn't grow up like that, and it makes them feel like you were saying impossible because, I know that's just a way of dress, but it's like if a person who didn't grow up like that, it's like that's impossible, you know. Thank you.
Move from that I said generation.
Yes.
Yeah, not generation, but you have to kind of change, but not. I said it morals
Exactly.
but it changes the time.
Adjust with the time. Yes. Hmm. No. Yes. 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 Hmm. Hmm. Yes. Hmm. Yes. Yes. And yes. Hmm.
And then, like the doctor always say, is let them get in the church.
Yes.
And then get the word in them, and then the word would change it. If they come in here with miniskirt up to their behind, let them come in.
Yeah. We
You
got
know
them.
what I'm saying?
Yes.
Let them get in and get the word, then and the word will slowly change them where they'll
Hmm.
understand. Drop it down.
Like drop it.
Let
Yeah.
them get. Don't push them out time they come in.
Exactly.
Start giving them all these rules. No, you can't dress like this. You come in with this. No, just let them come in.
Yes.
And then get the word in.
Hmm. Hmm. And, thank you. Hmm. Mm-mm. Hmm. Yeah. Yes. Nope. Exactly. Hmm. Yes. It's like you lost them. You never got them on the hook. They swam by and they took the bait, but they didn't. They never bit the hook. And it's at that point where, it's like their world now is the norm. And Coach, I know you see this all the time. Dealing with children. I mean, they're older children, but they're still children. You, it's like the way their world is the norm for them, but it's not the norm for us. However, we don't beat them down when their norm is not our norm. What we do, pull them in, make them trust us, and see that's the key right there. As Christians, that's what we need to do for people who coming in. Pull them in, make them trust us, make them feel comfortable with us, and then we can start to impart our doctrine kindly in them to a point where they don't feel like, man, this man here out of his mind. Because guess what? The next week, that's their reason to not come back. They're gonna give you every chance in the world, and that's just like with us dealing with children, with little children. When you got a little child who comes in and can use those big Sunday school words, them big cuss words, and they don't think nothing about it because that's what mama or daddy let them do at home, to them is normal. To them is normal to be able to cuss or say whatever they want to say. However, when they get in the school setting and the teacher says, hey, you can't do that, you can't say that, I can't blame that child. That's the problem. And once again, that's what, as Christians, that's what a lot of times what we do. We'll blame that child. We'll say the person coming in is in the role of that child. So instead of blaming that child or that new person that's coming in, just say that's the environment that they're in. And just say, God has put in me to be patient. God has put in me to be loving, kind, hospitable. So if that person comes in and they don't do these traditional things, but we see them at church every Sunday. We saw them one time, then when next Sunday we see them again. Now we know that, okay, because we are being hospitable and being inviting to them, they're coming back each time. So guess what? Now all of a sudden here, some of us can say, hey, come and join this. Now they're starting to feel welcome. Then you start saying, hey, you know what, like I said, they'll have a desire to change at that point on their own. We can't say you need to change that, because now what do? We just know that out and to say, hey, boom, they're out the door again. So once we get them, we do the hospitable things to pull them. And that's when God does the work. It's like you said, baby, we catch them, God cleans them. We can do all that, but he'll do the rest. Once they get in here, his will is going to be done.
Two things you said. One, as far as you can't lead me. One, if I don't like you. Two, you can't lead me. Two, if I don't trust you.
If I don't trust you.
Nobody's gonna follow you if they don't like you and they don't trust you.
Exactly.
So that's the biggest thing right there with leadership, is building trust. All right, and not conforming to the world, but still being understanding where people actually like you and want to be around you.
Yes.
Nobody wants to be around an unlikable person.
No.
A person they can't trust.
No.
So those are two big things. Like from my perspective, you said something as far as like the generation of kids
growing up. I didn't have this growing up, so therefore don't want to model. But I look at it differently as I see enough people doing enough things the right way. Is what brings about a change.
And see, and that goes back, what you just said right then, Bridget, is you hit the two of the major points that we hit on. First of all, when they come here, like Joe said, if I trust you and I like you, then I'm gonna come in here and start listening to you. And that's how they start to, we can start changing then once we get you in here. Y'all know I've shared my experience with Upward Bound. Like I said, I was straight up with the children because we have to be brutally honest because they're gonna be brutally honest with us. Teenagers now, they're gonna be raw with us on whatever they feel and whatever they have to say. And I told them, when I was asked to do it, I said I really, I had a misconceived notion about the children because I always dealt with elementary, but these were high school children. And so I was like, man, I know I'm gonna have to deal with some disrespectful, rude kids. Those kids changed my perspective on high school kids. And it was heartwarming to know that they're typical teenagers, yes, but they were really awesome. They are really awesome children for the most part. And what they said to me at the end, we were doing at the end of the semester, I said, we're just gonna talk. We're just gonna have a little, a little chit chat. We just gonna talk right now. And so I said, be honest with me. Tell me what you feel. What do I need? And the children were like, well, Mr. Taylor, look, we never had a teacher who, there are not many teachers who do what you did. I said, what did I do? When the children said, you listened to us, I didn't realize, they were like, you didn't judge us, and you heard us with conversations in the classroom, and you're the teacher. But they were like, you didn't judge us, and you listened to us. So we really respect you, and we want to be, when a teenager tell you they want to be in your class if you teach again, I'm like, I just poked my chest out, and that's what I felt. But they were just, when children are at that point, and Coach, is if they feel like if they trust you, you're gonna be like they gonna daft you up. That's how they're gonna feel around you because they're that comfortable with you. It's no disrespect, but it's just that's their way of having the camaraderie. And when they feel open and they say what they feel like they have to say to you, they're gonna be respectful, even if it's something that you don't agree with. And that's what I learned with them, at this point in time. And however, and us as Christians, shouldn't we be able to pull in I won't say new converts, but new people who want to come in and they should feel that same way? If they come in here and they want to confide in somebody about something going on, shouldn't it be at the point where that's what they feel like they need to do once they come in here? And honestly, it's saying about leadership, but we're all leaders as it relates to this ministry. Every one of us is a leader. To everybody who walks in that door. Yes. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yes. Mm-hmm. Exactly. Mhm.
They're paying to be there.
Yes.
Just like I'm paying to be at my house.
Yes.
And I feel like we just become so judgmental of people because of what we see on the outside.
Mhm.
And what I have come to find out is they're actually some gentlemen.
Mhm.
If they see me getting stuff out of my car, boxes or bags, they offer to help me carry my stuff.
Mhm.
Somebody has raised them right.
Yes.
But because they don't appear like what someone thinks that they should,
Mhm.
if at the blink of an eye, we can all lose everything that we have.
Yep.
So just because I've accomplished some things or attained something, it makes me no better than someone who hasn't or who appears to not have attained or accomplished those things. I don't know what goes on behind their doors.
Yeah.
What I know is they've never been disrespectful to me.
Yes.
What I know is when I speak, they speak back,
Mhm.
or that I'm not too good to speak to them.
Yes.
And they've always just been one of them really think he's a gentle giant,
Mhm.
in my opinion, because that's my experience with him.
Yes.
Now, what they do with other people away when I've not seen it, that's not my concern. But
Nope.
what my experience with these gentlemen has been is somebody has raised them right.
Yes.
And it's not for us to drive down the street or, go to someone's house and make judgment on someone else
Mhm.
because, maybe one day I can say, hey, pull your britches up.
Mhm.
But I have to earn the right to say that to
Yes.
them.
Yes. Building that relationship. And once again, here we are in the church. As once again, all of us as leaders, so many times don't give a relationship chance to build, to blossom. We want to push that person out, but not realizing, like the past Sunday school's lesson, you look in the mirror, you were there one time. It might not have been the same thing. You might not have had your pants down, but you had something else going on. And we know that's something that I think all of us can agree is not attractive for the most part, but that's their style. And if those young men, are it's if I can do something about it, then I will do or say something. If it's a nephew or a cousin or something of mine, you come into my house, yes, so you're gonna pull your pants up before you come in here, because this is my house. Or if we're at a family gathering, something like that, we can control that. But somebody on the street, but if that person is just a good person, I don't like how you wearing your nice clothes, but that's your clothes,
And it's the approach.
Mhm.
I could be why you got your pants down like that?
Exactly.
Come on
Yeah.
now.
Mhm.
Like really though.
Yes.
I can go to them because I've established the fact that I'm not judging them.
Mhm.
Or, a couple of them graduated high school, but they're not in school right now.
Mhm.
Maybe one day I can have a conversation. So, what you trying to do?
Exactly.
We just gonna hang out? What's going on? Now that you're going to school, you're not trying to find a job. What you trying to do?
Mhm.
But I can't just drive down the street one day and then hop out my car and say, hey, pull your pants up. Why you not in school with everybody else? Because I haven't established any type of rapport with them.
Mhm. Yes.
That's one thing I'll always say, one thing in leadership, you always gotta be comfortable having uncomfortable conversations. And two, especially with the younger generation, once they find out you judging them, or you gonna judge them, they'll never talk to you again.
Over with.
Like ever.
Nope.
Like they won't approach you,
They'll avoid
they
you.
won't respect you
Exactly.
or anything
Mhm.
to that point until, like Tanika said, you build that relationship.
Yes.
And I can tell my guys all the time, they can pull your pants up.
Yeah.
'Cause we've been around each other. I fed them. I spent time with them. I've been to their house.
Mhm.
I know where they come from. We talk. Like I said, we have those uncomfortable conversations. A lot of times they come want to talk about stuff that I really don't want to talk about. And I really feel like I should probably be talking
Yeah.
about it. All right, but at the same time, if they want to have that conversation, if they feel like that's a conversation that needs to be had,
Mhm.
in the same way in the church, if somebody want to have a conversation that you feel like, you have that conversation,
Yes.
because that's the way to build a relationship. And then once you have that conversation, I can go talk to them and say, hey, man, you probably should have did that.
Yeah.
You probably should have handled that another way.
Mhm.
But until you build that relationship, until you show them
would shut all the way down and shut you all the way out.
They found out the judge.
All right. Anybody have anything else they want to say? All right. Verses 4 and 5. Says, go ahead, D.
He must have a well-behaved family with children who obey quickly and quietly. For if a man cannot make his own little family behave, how can he help the whole church?
I got a perfect example. I brought it. Well, my old boss, Coach Bowen, he had 3 adopted kids.
Mhm.
He had a son, and stuff in practice, like he'll tell his son, "Hey, stop dribbling that ball up top," and the kid will dribble the ball real hard after he sees it. Or he'll come up to him in front of the guys and say, "Man, I wish you died." Like he'll say something to him, see, he said, "I wish you died." And it got to the point to where, like every other practice, one of the guys on the team was cursing him out. Like he'll say something to him like that,
Mhm.
dang, and that's what comes to my mind. Like if you can't tell your own son don't respect you, what makes you think 20 other 18 to 21-year-old, most of them black young men gonna respect you?
Exactly.
And I had that conversation with him. I said, Coach, one, you gotta get control of your own kids,
Mhm.
and two, I wish one of them would cuss me out. If they got to go, I got to go.
Yes.
And either we gonna fight or something gonna happen. I mean, you ain't finna just sit here and just cuss me out in front of everybody.
Yeah.
Now we go ahead and offer by ourselves. You say what you, and I'm probably gonna say something back to you.
Yeah.
We can do whatever, but you ain't finna sit here and cuss me out in front of every day in practice. I mean, he would always bring the kid to practice, and you could just see it over the years. The more disrespectful he got, the more disrespectful players got.
Mhm. Because they saw it.
And that's the thing, and like you said, like even as a pastor, that's like Jeff standing up there saying something, somebody yelling from the stands, cussing him out, and Jeff just going to sit down and not saying nothing about it. What you
Yeah.
think gonna happen next time you do something somebody else don't like?
It'd be somebody else, it'll be somebody else, and it'll be somebody else, and then it's total disarray, and once again that temperate, from the requirement of what being a leader is, temperate. You're temperate. However, people misconstrue stern or firm or knowing, when. Well, let me say like knowing when to address an issue. They consider that as being weakness. People in the street, when they meet you, when they see you, it's like that's not part of, that doesn't require my time right now. So I'm not going to address that issue because it does not. And there are others on the outside who look at that and say, "Oh, that's a sign of weakness." No, it's not a sign of weakness. That's being temperate in knowing when and where to expend your energy. If it's to something that's to no avail, guess what? Will it do any good? Will it do any good to spend your energy when you could be on something more important, more significant?
Pick your battles, but certain battles you're gonna have to
You
fight.
got yes,
You
yes.
can't let all of them slide.
Mhm.
Certain battles you're gonna have to fight. Right?
Mhm.
You gotta learn to fight your battles.
Yeah.
And pick and choose when to speak and
When
when not.
not. Mhm.
But see, there was an issue in our old church where I was working with them, and then, some of them were a little rowdy, a little disrespectful, and I said something to one of the kids, and the youth director actually said, "No, it's okay, just let them live it." And I told her, I said, "Well, I would be a hypocrite to have my 2 children tell me, they need to do X, Y, Z, and then I'm watching somebody else be disrespectful. So here's where we are. I'm gonna walk away from working in the youth department because I can't correct these kids.
Yeah.
It's hypocritical
Yes.
to tell my kids one thing when I can't say anything
To
to
everybody else's.
so the battle I had to pick was, working because I'm working because she was the leader, so I had
And with that being said, it's like there's an oath as teachers we learn in our methods classes called in loco parentis, and you can. There's two ways it could be. You know, Coach, I know you had some of the foundation stuff, but it's in lieu of parents or in place of parents. And we're saying that, and I know that deals specifically with children, but let's apply in loco parentis to this church. Jeff, as the overseer of this church, we as the leaders of this church, when that person comes in, they're not covered. I mean, if they don't have that relationship, and I'm not saying that they're not, that they're totally lost and doomed. No, they're not covered yet. So we are in loco parentis to the new people coming in this church, whether they are, and like I said, we say new, they don't have to be teenagers to be new. We can have some 30, 40, 50, 60-year-olds who are new, had not had a relationship, ever had a relationship with God, had not had a formal relationship in the church. So it's still our hospitable nature, our coddling them to make them trust us. That puts us in loco parentis. That puts us at a point where we are parental in the spiritual nature, not the physical being the physical parent or the maternal nature, but we are in the spiritual nature of parent trying to nurture them into this family. And if they don't feel welcome, liked, comfortable coming into this family by the people who are the face of this family, they're still a lost child. A lost child of God who might have been sent here. Every ministry, there are people destined for every ministry. Some people, some people can't come to here because it's not where God has for them to be. Some people have to come here because God has no other place but this place here for them. So if we don't welcome them at that time, that's our fault. That's our fault. And we have to take this ministry very seriously. Very seriously. When people see us out in the street, if they say, well, don't you go to Oasis? And I've had people who will say, I had one young lady, and I think she works at Walmart, and she was walking down the aisle, and she looked at me, and she said, hey, I know you. I said, hey, how you doing? I said, I've seen you somewhere. And she said, Oasis. And she said, yeah, and it was like, and I mean, but it was like somebody to say they remember you from church, and have a positive attitude, that says something. But if they say, sometimes if they say, you don't you go to Oasis, and don't say anything else but walk off away from you, then it's like, okay, something I didn't do, or somebody, some experience they didn't have that was right, But when they do it and they have a smile on their face and they say, yeah, that says a whole lot. And then numerous, and this was she probably early 20s, And she had a quick conversation, even though she was on the floor stocking. She had a quick conversation about being in church. That says a lot. All right, we'll go. Anybody have anything else they want to say on that? One more time. Yes. Yeah. But you go in the store and you don't speak to them. You step on them and not speak. Don't say excuse me. And they, wait, ain't you a deacon at your church? Ain't you a preacher? Ain't you do something at your church? Wow, I didn't realize you were like that out in the street. Turn it off. Yeah. Mhm. Yes.
and be a light for God
Hmm.
outside of the building.
Yes.
Because there's so many people that need that. I mean, everybody's dealing with something. When you could be the one thing in that person's day that maybe because you treated them how they should have been treated,
Hmm.
they don't commit suicide,
Yeah.
or they don't lose their mind.
Yeah.
I was reading a post on Facebook yesterday of a high school senior. Only thing, his dad has never been to a football game, and his dad promised him he was going to come to senior night, and he didn't. He didn't make it for whatever reason. And this young man posted on Facebook, he thought about committing suicide because he felt worthless.
Wow. Wow.
But the encounter of someone else, made him decide not to give up.
Hmm.
So we never know what person's life we are going to,
Yes.
affect negatively or positively
Hmm.
based on how we, interact with them.
Yes. And I know our time. Haley has an announcement at the end before we go, but it's. I know I shared in Sunday school. I don't know whether I shared with the rest of the congregation, here at Bible study, but there's a buddy, well, we weren't buddies. We were just associates in college. That was over 20 years ago. And he and I had not seen each other probably about 15 years. And about 6 months ago, I think it was, I happened to be in Walmart in Northport. And I was there, just over in the section looking for, picking up dog food. And he was there on the end of the aisle. And we just kind of walked up and started, he was like, he recognized me, I recognized him. And he started just confiding stuff, in me. We just general conversation, but it became more of a level of confiding. And Lord, I know I didn't read. I was like, Lord, why am I over here at this Walmart? I could have got dog food, and I didn't realize that wasn't where I had intended to go. And it was so funny because he said that wasn't where he intended to be. He was going to um, another location. I think he was a trucker, so he was going to Birmingham. I think he had to pick up a load or something in Birmingham. But anyway, it wasn't supposed to work out to where he was in Walmart based on his agenda for that day. However, this is where the story went. We exchanged numbers, and we still text, back and forth now. He'll call me sometime. I'll call him just to check on him sometime, and we'll exchange numbers. He was coming here. Well, actually, first Sunday we moved over here, he had texted me and said, "Where's the church?" And I told him, and his truck was in the shop, and the shop owner called him and told him his truck was ready, so he had to get a load that morning to leave out of here. Anyway, he was like, "Man, I can't make it." He said, "Because my load is ready. My truck is ready, and I gotta go get my load." So he was like, "But just keep me in your prayers." Anyway, later on, he confided in me. He said, "Walter," he said, "You don't know how that night before, that night after, he had made his mind up because of things that he was going to take his life." And he was like, "My encounter with you," he said, "you changed my life." And that was so profound because I had never dealt with that firsthand. But for this man to say, if us having conversation, he said, "You changed my life." He said, "You gave me hope just in our conversation." He said, because he had made his mind on how he was going to do it. He said he was going to a truck stop and log off his sleeper, from his road time, and he had his gun. He had his gun on. He said the night before somebody knocked on his truck door, and he put his gun back up because he was like, first I thought it was somebody coming, to try to rob or do something. He said when he looked out, he saw it was another driver that he knew. And he said he put his gun back up and then came out and started talking to him. And he said, but I had made my mind up that when I got to the next one, I was going to, leave a note in the truck and take my life. And he He said, but I thank God for our conversation. And that meant, so, it's profound, it's scary, but it meant a lot to know that just our encounter was a life-changing event. A life-saving event. So we have to be ambassadors and leaders in here and more so out there. Because we don't know when, like you said, that may be the only God, the only church, the only kind word, the only level of love that a person gets is through us. So at all times, we need to be ready. All right, if nobody have anything else they want to say on that, on that, we'll close right here. Haley, you can come on back. Here's Haley.